sister, Sister Ava Muhammad.
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. We thank him for raising in our midst a promised Messiah and predicted Christ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank them both for our leader, teacher, and guide, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. I greet my beloved brothers and sisters in the words of peace in the language of our fathers of Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, it is a great honor and privilege for me to come before you as a student and representative of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. He himself intended and desired to be in the mosque with us this afternoon and was not able to be here. I spoke with him this morning, and he first and foremost asked me to send you his warmest regards and the greetings of Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan has released his long-awaited book, A Torchlight for America. I was able to obtain the book on Friday and read it. And now I am in the process of going back through the book for the purpose of study. And this afternoon, there were some excerpts from the book, or there are some excerpts that I would like to share with you. It is clear to me in my first reading that this book is going to be highly controversial. I guarantee you that it is going to be the subject of raging debate. One of the reasons that it is going to be controversial is because anytime a man is capable of grasping the complexities of what is occurring within the government, and then he is able to take his understanding and convey it to the general population in language that the general population can comprehend, that man becomes a problem to those who are trying to retain power. He says in the opening of the book, a torchlight is anything that serves to illuminate, enlighten, or guide. It also means to love someone or something that does not necessarily reciprocate love. They call that, you've heard the phrase, so-and-so is carrying a torch for another person. And when you hear that phrase, what they're saying is, this woman loves this man, but he's not responding. Or vice versa. This man is in love. He's deeply in love with this woman, so much so he's carrying a torch for her, but there's no response. So it is conceivable that you can love somebody or care for their welfare, and they could care less than 2 cents about you. And any of us that have ever been in a relationship that knows the frustration of a one-way love is already getting some insight into what it is like to be a servant of God. A God that loves his people and has a solution to their problem, and not only the solution to the problem for his people, but a solution that would actually save all of humanity. And of course, he is implicating here that he's carrying a torch not only that America might not reciprocate, but unfortunately, some of our own people actually are not responsive. Now, in a 1973 speech that Minister Louis Farrakhan made when he was the minister of Mosque number 7 in New York City, this is what he had to say about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I submit to you that everything he says about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1973, it applies to Minister Farrakhan today in terms of our relationship with him. He said, whenever we do things that Allah is displeased with, the messenger is able to go to Allah on our behalf and ask forgiveness for us. And because of Allah's great love for his messenger, he will have mercy upon us. But if the messenger ever tires of a people's inordinance, if the messenger tires of a follower's inordinance and turns that people or that follower into the hands of Allah, then the chastisement of Allah is immediate and it is severe. That last messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is styled in the scriptures of the Bible as the apple of God's eye. Certainly, Allah loves the black man of America, but the one whom he loves most of all among us is the one whom he has chosen to lead us. And by our treatment of this one whom Allah loves so much is measured our blessings and mercy. Now listen carefully. It is our treatment of the messenger and his message which is the determining factor of whether we are blessed or cursed, whether we enjoy heaven or hell, whether we enjoy life or suffer death. So it is not just our righteous conduct, but it is our response to a man that God has sent among us. Right now, many of our young black entertainers are enjoying monetary gain, fame, and fortune as a result of their ability to entertain you and I. But if you watch the Caucasian very carefully, he always leads his own opposition. He knows that it is a time for the elevation of consciousness of young black people. So what does he do? He allows the young black brothers who are skilled in rap to enjoy about 2 seconds of fame and fortune. Then all of a sudden, they disappear from the scene. You have so many black people that are gifted. You have black people in the projects that today could be taken out of the projects and overnight would sell millions of records just because of their gifts. Now, the white man has the ability, because of his economic power, to pick and choose from among the skilled among our brothers and sisters and make them famous overnight. Where's Hammer? I'm asking you, where is Hammer? 2 years ago, you could not turn your television set on and not see Hammer selling Coke, selling Kentucky Fried Chicken, selling shoes, selling shirts, making records. He was the man, wasn't he? Getting all the Grammy Awards. Where is he? He's being replaced. I guarantee you that In Vogue, that's what they are. They're in vogue right now. But next year you won't see them. You'll see Sisters with Voices at next year's Grammy Award. What is this doing to us? Michael Jordan. Now they've drafted some big white Russian or something to come and be part of the Chicago Bulls. What is that about? That's to break up the building harmony among the black men on that team before they come to the complete realization that they are what makes the Chicago Bulls run. Now what they're going to do, they're going to bring this big white boy in there. He's going to upset the psychological harmony of the team. And you know what the Caucasian said? We want to see, now check this out, we want to see if we can win a championship without Michael Jordan. Why? Because here's a black man, he doesn't come when we call him. When we send invitation to you, Negro, to come to lunch at the White House and get a piece of chicken with the president, you're supposed to be there. And all praise is due to Allah. Now, I'm talking about this for a reason. I am saying that our brothers and sisters are being treated to a taste of the wealth of white America to prevent them from responding to a call from a man of God. They're making it so good to them and make it look accessible to the rest of us, so that when this man calls us, we will not respond. But I believe, beloved, that black people are too intelligent in 1993 to go for the old okie doke. Allah has raised up a light in the midst of America for black people. And America could be the beneficiary of that light if she would submit. But America cannot take the color of the man that the message is coming through. In 1993, she is still burning black flesh for sport and play, and I will deal with that in a minute. But as the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said to me this morning, and you can look at it, whenever God sends someone, then in the absence of a proper response to that one, he will send distress. Now, since our young people are falling prey to the seduction of the material wealth that white people possess, Allah has to step in. When the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, I'm going to pray to my God and you pray to yours, and his God responded, then the proper response to that is not an editorial in the Sun-Times accusing him of being anti-Semitic. Now, this wicked newspaper, I'm talking about the Sun-Times, it should be called the Nighttime, because it is facilitating the fall of America, because it is continuing to mislead Caucasian people in the illusion that God cares about their opinion of his man. And all praise is due to Allah. When I was practicing law, beloved, I was a trial lawyer, criminal defense lawyer. I was a litigant. That meant I had to go into court and argue my position. This meant I had to learn the art of direct and cross-examination of witnesses. Now, when you are in court trying a case, a question that you ask can be objected to simply on the grounds that the question is irrelevant. In other words, the question has nothing to do with the issues that are before the court. Who determines whether or not the question is relevant? It's the judge. I'm taking that as an illustration. The white man keeps asking this question: is Farrakhan still anti-Semitic? Well, first of all, the question's defective, because still implies that they've proven that he was anti-Semitic to begin with. First of all, the word Semitic is being misused, because if anybody's Semitic around here, it's you and I. And all praise is due to Allah. But the proper question is not whether or not Minister Farrakhan is anti-Semitic. The question is, and should be put before the people, how can we get Farrakhan's God to get up off of us? That's the question that white people need to be asking one another. What can we do? Can we eat cheese? Can we bring him money? What can we do? Because from the day that he called for disaster, it has not ceased. Now, listen at this. Here is what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan explained to me. When you see an increase in the rapidity and the severity of natural disaster, This means that God knows something that we don't. God knows that behind the scenes, his enemies are persisting. See, the white people are walking out, looking around, their houses are underwater, and they're looking up and they're just bewildered and they're upset, and they're going to the White House for assistance. But a flood can be brought about in the twinkling of an eye. There is not enough money in the world, beloved, to correct the damage or to repair the damage that has been done all the way from the base of the Mississippi up north, and they are expecting more rainfall. There has been so much focus on the flooding that they overlook the fact that Texas is suffering from a drought. Now, what you are witnessing, beloved, is this. To stop this Caucasian from seducing our children and luring them away from the man of God, Allah is right now, as I speak, engaging in a redistribution of wealth. He is upsetting the economic base of the United States of America, and he is placing the wealth in the hands of another group of people. And that group of people, if we would bow down and submit to his will, is you and I. Allah did not send us a speaker, somebody to come out and we listen and say, oh, that sounded real good. Then we go back home and indulge in the same activity that we engaged in before we heard the message. This is a final call to the government and to you and I to accept this message or to reject it and face the consequences. In his book, A Torchlight for America, Minister Farrakhan made reference to America as the Titanic. Now, those of you who are students of history know that when he makes reference to the Titanic, this is a very serious illustration to use. The Titanic is not just a boat that sank. It's a lot more profound than that when you look into the history of that ship. Many of you know the history of this ship, and if you have studied with us in the mosque, you have been given a very detailed factual history. But I want to make it clear to you why he makes a comparison between the United States of America and the Titanic, and what relevance that has to you and I in Chicago in 1993. The Titanic set sail in April of 1912. 1912 was 2 years before the end of the time anointed to Satan to rule. The 6,000-year period ended in 1914. In 1912, Great Britain and the United States were both reveling in wealth that is unimaginable. They were reaping the benefits of slavery. The 310 years that your and my ancestors gave free slave labor resulted in untold treasuries in the hands of the Caucasian American and in Great Britain. In fact, most of Europe was enjoying great wealth. They had so much money, brothers and sisters, that they really didn't know what to do with it. And all that they could do was indulge in extreme and really corrupt luxury. They built an ocean liner named the Titanic, and it was built by the White Star Line. And when they call it the White Star, that's exactly what they meant. This was something for and by and for the benefit of Caucasian people. Now, the White Star Line focused on luxury liners. The Titanic was several city blocks long. I think it was about 12 city blocks long, and it was 10 stories high. That meant if you jumped off of it, you would kill yourself. That's how high it was. There were no black people on this ship. You had 2,700 passengers. No black people, not even in steerage. We were still being lynched. In fact, this was at the height of America's history of burning black flesh. In the summer of 1912, lynching was more popular as a sport than baseball was. And the way that they spent Sunday afternoon in the South was the white women would come out in carriages, dressed up with a parasol, and they would sit on bleachers, and they would go into the black community, and they would select a young black male at random. They would capture him like an animal, and they would bring him out to the center of a park, and in front of their women and children, the white man would burn this young black man alive. After he was killed, they would cut his body up into strips and sell pieces of it for souvenirs at 10 cents a piece. This is recorded in the archives of America's history if you want to check into it. This is why a black woman by the name of Ida B. Wells, who many of us only know as a name on a housing project, but was one of the most powerful people, male or female, black or white, that ever graced God's earth. This woman risked her life to go to war against the lynching of our men. They were also lynching females from time to time, taking a particular pleasure in lynching a black woman in her 8th to 9th month of pregnancy and snatching out the young baby as a symbol to their children to teach that you should spend your whole life with the objective of destroying black life. And the best time to destroy it is before it comes into existence. So this is I want to paint you a picture of the environment that the Titanic came into existence in. So while we're being burnt, because mind you, all the cotton had been picked, all of the sugar cane had been harvested, and now America was enjoying great liquid wealth in the form of cash and had converted that into industrial wealth. So she already, back in 1912, was looking to determine what can we do with this freed slave population that we have no use for. And while we're deciding what to do, we'll just burn them up for sport and play. Now, meanwhile, over in Ireland, the White Star Line completed the construction of the Titanic, and its objective was to be not only the largest and the most luxurious, but the fastest ocean liner. Because, mind you, in those days, they were not flying. So the only way to travel was transatlantic was by water. So they were putting everything they could into making that journey as pleasurable but as quick as possible. When this ship was completed, it left from Belfast, Ireland. It had on it all types of linen, silk, cotton, jewelry, tons and tons of liquor, exotic foods, everything that you can imagine, gold and silver, things that it was carrying that had been made from the diamond mines and the gold mines of Africa. Because while you and I were suffering on this side of the Atlantic, our brothers and sisters were being enslaved on the other side of the Atlantic and being forced to go down into the mines of their own country to bring up diamonds and gold to drape Caucasian females' necks. So all of this was on this ship. And also riding on this ship were very well-to-do American families such as the Astors, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, and other families, some of their sons and daughters were on this particular journey. This journey was so important because it was the maiden voyage. In fact, some people came across the ocean just to ride back because they wanted to go down in history, and they did go down in history. All praise is due to Allah. Now, the ship left on the morning of April the 12th, and they left on the 9th of April. I think it was the 9th. It may have been the 12th. The important date is the 15th. That's the date they went under. But when they left, now at this time, the telegraph had just been invented. And they had one on board. So they had the ability to send signals over the water from ship to ship. This was also a new concept in 1912. Already before they even left dock, now I want you to listen to me good. Before they even left port, they were getting warnings about the route that they had selected, that there were large chunks of ice that had been observed by other ships. And they sent a warning to the executive staff of the White Star Line that perhaps you should reconsider another time. And their response was, no, we are going. We got all these millionaires on the boat. We've got the press here. And we are ready to make this trip. Plus, we want to break the record, the speed record that was set by our competition. So they went ahead and launched the ship. They had balls, huge ball. They had a ballroom the size of this mosque. They had formal dinners, and they just had a wonderful time. They had it was the first time they had a gymnasium for working out. See, all of this is coming. This is the dawn of the 20th century. So all of the money that they made from our work, they were spending now on luxury for themselves. Now, about the second day out to sea, the captain made a decision that he was not making enough time. So he instructed his crew to go faster. He received a message at that time that the blocks of ice that had been observed were getting larger and larger, and that they should probably turn around and head back. They said, no, we're not going back, because we're going to be in New York on the 15th or the 16th, whatever the date was. We're going to be there. Nothing, now listen to the captain's words, nothing, there is no power that is going to stop this ship from reaching its destination. Those were his words. So he kept going. His crew said, well, look, if you're going to continue, at least slow down, because at the speed that you are traveling, if you do hit something, it is going to be more catastrophic the faster you go. Just as you know, if you're in a car and you're going 70 miles an hour, that's a whole different type of collision than if you're going at 20 miles an hour. He said, no, in fact, I want to go faster. Now, late in the night, or in the early morning hours of the third night out at sea, the young man that they had up in the crow's nest, he was about 18 years old. And he was one of the people that said, you should turn around. And everybody ignored him because he was ranked very low. He just washed dishes and looked out on the crow's nest. So he was on his post at 2 o'clock in the morning. Most of the ship's passengers were at a big dinner party for the Astor family, as well as the captain. There was liquor flowing, a lot of food. All the passengers that were not at the party were in bed asleep. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, he saw something in the distance, and it looked like a big black mountain. This is how he described it, but he knew he couldn't be seeing a mountain because he was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But it looked like something big and black. As they came closer, and he said later, he said he felt it in the pit of his stomach. It wasn't something that registered in his mind. It registered at the core of his instinct for survival, that he was looking at death. And what they didn't realize is that an iceberg is a mountain. The largest, thickest, strongest part of any iceberg is what is under the water, not what you see on top. And keep this in mind when you think about America today and a messenger and a warner. He sounded the alarm. The captain left the dinner table. He's half drunk. He runs up and they point and they see it. Now, at the last second, he says to the crew, "Turn around." Now, you've got a ship that is about 15 blocks long, and you've got to turn it around, and it's 10 stories high. And they're feeding the fuel with wood, okay? And he's saying, "Hurry up, turn around." The biggest mistake they ever made. Because had they hit the iceberg head on, in other words, had they submitted to the reality that they have run into death, then they would have survived, because the ship would have been stuck in the ice, and it would have just remained frozen there stationary until a rescue ship could come. But they made a sharp left turn at the last minute, trying to avoid the consequences of rejection. In making this turn, they exposed the one area on the ship that was not waterproof. Because when they left, they said, "This ship is unsinkable. Nothing can sink this ship." Now, just before they were about to leave, the builder came. He said, "I'm sorry, there's a little problem. There's one area on the ship that I didn't get to that is still susceptible to water." And he said, "But it's so small, it's really not a big thing. But I just wanted to let you know that if water gets in that part of the ship, it is possible that it could ultimately sink. But that's just a theory. It could never happen." When they made the left turn, the iceberg cut into the ship like a saw blade, like a chainsaw. And it ripped that ship open like a can opener right at the part where the man didn't get a chance to waterproof it. And the ship began to sink. When it went down, it went so fast that no rescue ship was able to get there in time. They said they have never seen something that big go down that quickly. They did not have enough lifeboats on the ship because they were so certain that they were not going to sink. People began to fight for spots on the lifeboat. People were taking out guns, shooting people. Men were dressing up like women to get on the lifeboat. People were killing each other trying to get to safety, when all they had to do was pay attention to the warning when they were still back on land. Now, when this ship went under, even those in the lifeboat, if they had not been able to row away fast enough, and many of them were not, they went down with the ship. Because when she went, the suction power was so great that everything within about a 10-mile radius went under with the ship. Why am I telling you the story? Because in his book, A Torchlight for America, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan compares this country to the Titanic. This country that is so big and bad, nobody can take America down. Iraq couldn't deal with America. Grenada couldn't deal with America. Even Russia could not deal with America. And at the root and in the deepest subconscious mind of black people who have not yet stood up with Minister Farrakhan, it is not that they do not love him. They love Minister Farrakhan. What is stopping them from coming out and standing up like men and women is fear and a conviction that there's nobody bad enough to take America down, and they are afraid that the Nation of Islam is going to be destroyed. Well, I want you to know that nothing could be further from the truth. Not only is our God bad enough to take America down, he can do it without getting up out of his seat. He proved that when he took the Titanic down, not with something moving, but with something motionless. He took that luxury liner down with a piece of ice. Ice is nothing but frozen water. But it is a matter of who's using it, how they're using it, and what power they have to manipulate H2O. The very liquid that gives you life, that cleans you, that you cook with, is now drowning your slave master's children. And all praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. Mr. Cupsonet made a little smart remark in his column. He said, well, Minister Farrakhan is claiming that all of the natural disasters that we're suffering is God's punishment on America for her misdeed. He said he'd leave that to the religious expert, but he said he thought God was a loving God. Where did he get that thought from? Has he read the Bible? Has he read the Quran? God is the most destructive being that you will ever confront if you get on his wrong side. He has never loved everybody. In fact, he loves very few people because he doesn't like anybody that doesn't bow down to do his will. He does not have friends and associates. He was not elected to be God. He didn't campaign. He came out of triple darkness alone by himself. And all he's interested in is obedience. That's all. That's all. You can't give him money. You can't give him a woman. He made woman. And he made her a black woman. This is crazy for us to be equivocal about what we want to do. Why is Farrakhan so fired up? Why? In 1993, a black man is minding his own business in Florida, walking around doing nothing but being black, and 4 Caucasians decide they don't like looking at that black male flesh, and they pour oil, gasoline on him and set this man on fire. This didn't happen 100 years ago. So everybody that's scared and that was slavery. Whoever told you you wasn't still a slave? That was slavery and it is slavery. That's why he has to send us a man, a Moses, to go to Pharaoh. That's who Clinton is. He's the current Pharaoh. Minister Farrakhan's not talking to them to socialize. He's representing God's position to white America, and they can take it or let it alone. And when the slaves left Egypt, some of them stayed behind. Those of us that like being with white people, they can stay here. But we're out of here. And all praise is due to Allah. But we're not going. We're not going until we get what's coming to us. Because he said in the book of Genesis, we were leaving here with great wealth. So we're not going away from where we worked for 400 years empty-handed. Yes, we need a fiery leader, a man that's in touch with God. And you have in Minister Farrakhan not just an orator. Now you've got a man that has produced out of compassion a book studying the problems correctly and then giving us the solution. What kind of man should God give us after the kind of history we've had in this country? In fact, for these people, these Caucasians, to complain about the leader is a display of ignorance. Because as refined and civilized as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have been with them, there are black people out here in this country, a lot of them are in Chicago, that are totally crazy, that have no interest in reasoning with anybody, and in the absence of divine direction will take this country apart brick by brick. Every time black people get angry in this country, the first thing they do is light a match. That goes back to our history of how we came into existence with fire. It's the first weapon we ever used. See, you forgot about it because that was over 78 trillion years ago. But it's buried in your DNA structure. The knowledge that when you want to defeat the darkness, you go to war with it with fire. So when black people get tired of something, they just burn it up. Because fire has a cleansing effect. It cleans up everything. If you don't survive, at least you'll be cleaned up. So I'm saying that to say the government should thank Minister Farrakhan and should give him some money to work with, because he is taking care of a problem that they don't have a solution for. But they're angry at him because he has exposed the special science of American racism. See, the American racism is different from, South Africa, they just come right out and just stomp you. But over here, it's a little bit more subtle. But he has exposed that. He reminds us of who and what we are in our history. Now, I think we need a militant, God-backed, God-led leader, and we have one. This means everybody else should sit down. How many heads do you have on your body? One. So we are one organism. We need one leader. We don't need anybody that 1 minute they want to be a talk show host, the next minute they want to be a comedian, and the next day they want to run for office. See, you go on home and make up your mind what you want to do, and after we build a nation, then you can come and apply to us for a job. But right now, we need someone who knows what he is doing. And doesn't feel he has to go to white people to get it. Why do you all need somebody like that? I'll tell you why. You forget what we've lived with. So happy to get some Kentucky Fried Chicken and watch a video. We're just happy to be here. So happy to make a movie. You just take any old piece of trash for a movie. I'm a director now. You know, in the 1970s, they came out with the blaxploitation films, Superfly. So it was the black leading man, the sex object, the black detective. In the 1990s, it's the black director. So you got Spike Lee, you got the two little dudes with Menace to Society, you got John Singleton. Now they're being made to believe they really have power. But I guarantee you that white man doesn't let anything get up on that big screen that doesn't promote his message. I don't care how militant, how black, how independent it looks. It is not that. And he is exposing that. We're not getting anything that we can build an economic base with when we put money in the pocket of an idiot. Now, we have lived, I'm going to give you a brief little history. I know it's hot in here. And we're going to be out of here in 10 minutes. But we need a reminding lesson, history lesson, because you're not getting it in the Chicago public school system. But this is what we've lived with. Slave ships, whips, white robes, electric prods, Jim Crow,